The cycle broke only when I understood that lasting change requires a paradigm shift. How many decisions have you avoided out of fear? How many opportunities have you missed because you felt inadequate or unprepared? How many of those limiting beliefs did you inherit from others, trapped in their own cycles of fear? The core issue isn't fear itself, but the lack of clarity about your internal landscape. Without understanding your thoughts, you can't transform them. You're stuck in a silent loop of worry, doubt, and dread, waking up depressed without understanding why. Imagine a child struggling with a jigsaw puzzle, frustrated and ready to give up. Then an adult shows them the picture on the box. Suddenly, everything makes sense. The pieces haven't changed, but the perspective has. Understanding your mind is like that. The challenges remain, but you see the bigger picture. You know what you're building. You're not a victim of anxiety. You're simply confused about how your mind works. This is understandable. Nobody taught you this in school. If you didn't learn it at home, you likely entered adulthood believing suffering was inevitable. It isn't. Recognizing that anxiety begins with a thought is the first step to reclaiming control. And thoughts are choices. You can choose to focus on what you want to create or on what you fear losing. The choice is yours, and so are the consequences. What thoughts are you feeding today? Are you choosing fear or possibility? Your external reality will never exceed the vision you hold within. If anxiety feels overwhelming right now, don't beat yourself up. You're at the start of a powerful new learning curve. That changes everything. Most people treat anxiety as a final diagnosis, a full stop. I have anxiety, they say, as if it's the end of the story. But anxiety is just one stage in a larger, insidious cycle. A thought becomes worry, worry becomes fear, fear becomes anxiety, and unchecked, it spirals into depression and ultimately physical illness. The body doesn't lie. Suppressed negative energy doesn't disappear. It transforms. It manifests as insomnia, fatigue, digestive issues, heart palpitations, escalating to chronic pain and weakened immunity. The root, however, is always in the mind. Famous, successful people aren't immune. Remember Robin Williams, a comedic genius battling a silent internal war. Emotional pain doesn't discriminate. It attacks those who don't know how to manage their thoughts. The uncomfortable truth, suppressing anxiety only makes it grow. You need to transform that negative energy, not ignore it, not mask it with distractions or medication, but transform it. Every emotion is energy in motion. Denying it causes it to fester. I've seen this pattern countless times. People on the brink of emotional collapse who, upon understanding this cycle, began to rebuild themselves from the inside out. It always starts with this recognition. I am not my anxiety. I am the awareness that can transform it. Even I struggled with suppressing my emotions. Outwardly strong and disciplined, I harbored deep-seated insecurities and fear of failure. I buried it under work until my body screamed for attention. Extreme fatigue, lack of focus, a constant feeling that something was wrong, even when everything appeared right. My body was calling me inward. The healing began when I stopped running and embraced the discomfort of confronting my pain. This might be your moment. You may feel that same exhaustion, racing mind, heavy heart. You wonder, why do I feel this way when nothing is objectively wrong? Deep down, you know something needs attention. This isn't drama. It's your body's desperate plea for self-preservation. This cycle can be broken. Start by acknowledging your thought patterns. Notice when worry arises, when fear takes root. Don't fight it. Question it. Is this thought real or a possibility I've created? Often you're suffering over something that hasn't even happened. Allow yourself to continue down this path, and you'll go from anxiety to depression, to illness, to disintegration, but you can stop it now. With a different thought, a different decision, not tomorrow. Now, you deserve peace. It's not a luxury, it's a right. but no one will give it to you. You must claim it, starting with your thoughts and how you process your feelings. What you suppress sickens you. What you transform liberates you. Your mind possesses incredible power, the power to choose what you think. You can consciously cultivate positive or negative thoughts. The problem is, most people react instead of choose. They react to the news, to bills, to criticism, to spontaneous fear, living on mental autopilot, feeding thoughts they don't want, but repeat daily. I discovered, through experience, not just books, that thought precedes and creates emotion, and emotion alters the body's physical state. Each thought shapes how you feel now and tomorrow. Eliminating anxiety begins with a conscious decision. Stop thinking about what you don't want and start thinking about what you do want. Ever wake up feeling inexplicably heavy? Something's wrong, but you don't know what. That's your subconscious, long fed by negativity, still projecting that emotional state. The subconscious doesn't discern truth from falsehood. It accepts what you repeat. It's fertile ground. Plant fear, reap anguish. Plant faith, reap well-being. Years ago, I worked with a woman paralyzed by fear of job loss. Before even getting out of bed, she'd think, "What if today's the day I'm fired?" This created a constant internal tension that affected her performance. She came to me saying, "I can't take this anxiety anymore." My response, "You're choosing to think this every day. What if you chose differently?" She resisted but took the challenge. For a week, she wrote down every negative thought and then its positive counterpart. By the end, her report was simple. "My mind feels lighter. I can breathe." You can do this too. For 7 days, whenever a negative thought arises, any thought causing tension, fear, or insecurity, pause, breathe, and write its positive equivalent. Empowering thoughts, even if they don't feel real yet. If you think, "I can't pay my bills," rewrite it as, "I'm finding creative solutions to acquire new resources." It's not magic, it's neuroscience. Your brain rewires itself based on what you repeatedly affirm with feeling. The choice between negative and positive is always available. Energy enters you neutrally, ready to be shaped. What form do you give it with your thoughts? Most people focus on what they don't want. I don't want to get sick. I don't want to be rejected. I don't want to fail. But the mind doesn't understand "don't" the way you do. It focuses on the image. You're subconsciously creating images of pain, scarcity, and failure, which become commands, which become experiences. When you focus on what you do want, images of success, health, accomplishment, you create a completely different vibrational field. This isn't just spiritual theory. Scientific data shows that 5 minutes of positive visualization daily can reduce cortisol, the stress hormone, by up to 23%. Positive thinking literally changes your body's chemistry. It influences your decisions, energy, and opportunities. This isn't about ignoring problems. It's about choosing your perspective. Focus on scarcity or possibilities, pain or lessons learned. It's not easy initially, as old patterns will pull you back. But with repetition, it becomes natural. You'll vibrate at a different frequency. People will notice. Opportunities will arise. Most importantly, you'll find inner peace, a quiet stillness that originates within, not without. How many times today have you dwelled on what could go wrong? What if, for a moment, you replaced that thought with a simple question? What if it works out? Negative what-ifs imprison. Positive what-ifs liberate. You deserve that freedom, to live without self-sabotage, to trust life's flow, to recognize that your outer world begins in your mind. Control your thoughts. Control your life. Since you choose what you think, why continue choosing what destroys you? Change is a decision away. That decision awaits you now. Both fear and faith require belief in something unseen. Fear builds paralyzing images. Faith builds liberating ones. Both operate on the same principle, projecting an idea into the future and emotionally experiencing it in the present. The crucial choice: will you believe in the worst or the best possibility? The true antidote to anxiety isn't control, perfectionism, or obsession with results. It's faith, not blind faith awaiting external miracles, but faith rooted in understanding. Faith that arises when you grasp how your mind, emotions, and energy function. This faith doesn't keep you passively waiting. It lifts and moves you. Why do most struggle with faith? They're conditioned to focus on life's negative aspects. They identify flaws, losses, and risks, forgetting the other side: possibilities, opportunities, and solutions. This side reveals itself only through understanding, which arises from study. Stop living on autopilot and examine your beliefs, patterns, and fears. When I started developing faith based on knowledge, I had no formal education, no money, and a distorted self-image. But someone said something transformative. You possess something within you that, if you understand how it works, can change absolutely everything. He was right. Understanding how my thoughts shape my reality awakened a force and confidence I never knew existed. It came before life improved, therefore life improved. See how it inverts? Most wait to feel good to change their mindset, but you only feel good when you change your mindset. That's faith with understanding. You don't need everything to be perfect to trust. You trust, and things start to align. Science confirms this. Studies from Stanford University show that people with positive beliefs about themselves and life exhibit greater emotional resilience, better physical health, and lower levels of chronic inflammation. The mind creates the ideal environment for the body to function in balance. Well-being isn't just a feeling, it's a physiological response to aligned, confident thoughts. Choosing faith, even when results aren't visible, puts you in a state of well-being, a magnetic state attracting situations and people vibrating at the same frequency. It's not coincidence, it's vibrational coherence. Life responds to your internal shift. You don't need to force, you just need to align. What's your dominant emotional pattern? Do you wake with confidence or fear? Sleep with gratitude or guilt? This shapes not only your day, but your destiny. Constantly feeding thoughts of scarcity makes peace impossible. But if you start feeding thoughts of possibility, your entire system responds with lightness, clarity, and energy. I saw this with a young man in one of our programs. Unlocking your potential. From anxiety to awesome. We've all been there, paralyzed by self-doubt, convinced that our dreams are beyond reach because of limited resources, inexperience, or a perceived lack of privilege. We tell ourselves a story, a limiting narrative, that holds us back. But what if I told you that the key to breaking free isn't about magically acquiring more money or connections, but about rewriting that internal story? It's about shifting from a place of fear to a place of unwavering self-belief. Think of your mind as a powerful garden. For years, you may have unknowingly planted seeds of negativity, seeds of self-criticism, past failures, and limiting beliefs whispered by others. These weeds choke the growth of your potential. But you have the power to cultivate a different garden, one brimming with confidence, resilience, and self-compassion. This isn't about toxic positivity. It's about conscious creation. It's about replacing those negative seeds with empowering affirmations, nurturing your inner landscape with self-love and acceptance. It's about choosing to believe in your potential before you see the evidence. Believe, and you will see. Imagine yourself a year from now, thriving, confident, and free from the grip of anxiety. Picture the details, the feeling of accomplishment, the peace of mind, the joy of pursuing your passions. Write it down. Feel it. Make it real in your mind's eye. This isn't some magical incantation. It's a powerful technique rooted in the science of neuroplasticity. Your brain is constantly rewiring itself based on your thoughts and actions. By repeatedly visualizing success and affirming your capabilities, you're literally retraining your brain to operate from a place of empowerment. This journey starts with a single, courageous choice: to trust your inherent worth, to embrace the unknown, and to maintain inner calm amidst external chaos. Don't wait for someday. Don't wait for the perfect circumstances. Start now, because the only thing standing between you and your dreams is the story you keep telling yourself. Many people fall into the trap of believing that external changes will solve their internal struggles. When I get that promotion, I'll be happy. When I have more money, I'll finally feel secure. But true, lasting change begins within. It's about dismantling the self-limiting beliefs that have held you captive. It's about recognizing that your self-image isn't a fixed entity, but rather a dynamic creation you have the power to shape. So, who are the voices in your head telling you that you're not good enough, smart enough, or worthy enough? Silence those voices. Replace them with a chorus of self-belief and self-acceptance. Your past doesn't define your future. Your potential is limitless. This isn't vanity, it's self-empowerment. It's taking control of your narrative and creating a future aligned with your deepest desires. It's a journey of self-discovery and transformation, and the first step is believing in yourself, fiercely, relentlessly, and unconditionally. Ready to cultivate your own garden of success? Click here for more resources to help you on your journey. Let's grow together. Anxiety, it's not a life sentence, it's a bad habit. We often think of anxiety as something happening to us, a consequence of stressful situations, demanding bosses, or a dwindling bank account. But what if I told you it's actually a choice? A self-inflicted wound, born not of external pressures, but of the internal chatter in your mind. You're not a victim. You're the director of your own mental movie, and you've been stuck on a terrifying loop. For years, I watched brilliant, well-meaning people who desperately wanted better lives, remain paralyzed by fear. They knew anxiety was making things worse, yet they couldn't break free. Why? Because they didn't understand the simple truth. Anxiety isn't a curse, it's a lack of self-awareness. It's the constant what-if game, the relentless replay of worst-case scenarios that keeps you trapped. What if I fail? What if this doesn't work out? Sound familiar? Believe me, it's a universal experience. I know firsthand. I was once a young man with nothing, no degree, no money, and crippling self-doubt. He worked dead-end jobs, changing oil, lugging tires, believing that was my fate. Until a book, Think and Grow Rich, changed everything. It wasn't the answers themselves, but a sudden illuminating realization. The problem wasn't the world, it was my own limiting beliefs. Anxiety thrives in the fertile ground of uncertainty. It's a mental hijacking, a disconnect from the present, fueling a catastrophic future that rarely materializes. Studies show that over 80% of our daily thoughts are negative, and most of them never come to pass. You're essentially living in a self-created horror film, convinced it's a documentary. Think of it like this. You're behind the wheel of your life, but you've never had a driving lesson. You're speeding, you're lost, and you're convinced you're about to crash. Learning about mental paradigms, those ingrained patterns of thinking we adopt in childhood, was a turning point for me. I was on autopilot, reacting to the same old triggers, experiencing the same old fears.